myself as somebody who holds a lot of power. I work for a small nonprofit. I do things like help throw pride carnivals for a living. And it wasn't until about 9 months ago when I had an encounter with a student that really put into perspective my thoughts on courage and power. This particular situation happened on campus during our annual Pride Carnival. And at some point in the morning, I had tied a pride flag around my neck, not thinking twice about it. And during the afternoon, a student approached me and asked me, "Do you consider yourself a member of one of these communities?" "No," I said. "No, I'm not." "Well, then you need to take the flag off." "I would consider myself an ally, if that counts." "As an ally," he said, "you should know better." Now, it wasn't until I replayed the scene over and over in my head afterwards that I realized how much courage it must have taken for that student to approach me and essentially challenge a power structure, me, the Hillel professional. And then when I had responded defensively to him, just how much more courage it must have taken for him to ask me to take off the flag, right? To demand some sort of accountability from me. Now, I work for an organization that values diversity and inclusion. And every day when I come to work and when I engage with students, I try to do so in the most authentic way possible. Because after all, as we all know, college students can be the ultimate BS detectors. And sometimes I get it right, and sometimes I fail. I had never thought critically about my power as a Hillel professional until I had been directly challenged by this student. Ultimately, though, I love working for a value-driven organization. After all, as a secular Jew, I connect best to my Judaism through its values. And a lot of that is because of my involvement in Hillel as a student at the University of Colorado at Boulder. Go Buffs. And now, as a Hillel professional, I try to live my values every single day, as does my organization. Sometimes when it's hard, sometimes especially when it's hard. And that was never made more clear to me than when I was diagnosed a year ago with cholangiocarcinoma, cancer of the bile duct. I was 28 years old. I had been working at Hillel for 4 months, and I was 6 weeks away from getting married. It was a lot. My diagnosis came at the end of what had already been an incredibly long semester for us at Hillel 818. Last fall, our students had experienced a shooting at the Borderline College Bar and Grill, followed by wildfires that had burnt down half of California, displaced many of them from their homes, our communal tragedy in Pittsburgh, and then finally, at the end of the semester, a swastika and mass shooting threat had shown up on campus at Cal State Northridge, the largest of the 3 schools that we work on. And even though I had only been working at Hillel for 4 months, I had already seen the myriad of ways that we showed up for our students. We had hired a mental health counselor to be on campus if our students needed it. We had hired a security guard so that our students could study for finals in peace. And we let everybody know that they could just stop by for a Krispy Kreme or a cup of coffee just to hang out and chill. And then when I was diagnosed on December 28th, all I knew was that I would need Hillel to show up for me the way that we showed up for our students. The weekend I was diagnosed, I called my then former executive director, David, and I told him everything I knew about my diagnosis, which at that point was very little. I did not know that I would eventually go through 15 rounds of chemotherapy, that is me eating a donut during chemo, or that 8 weeks ago I would have a liver resection, with 50% of my liver removed from my body, or that I would still be standing here a year later in active treatment. Thank you. At the very end of my conversation with David, I paused, and he paused. And then I heard him say, "Whatever you need, we will be with you 100%. Now, as the person in power, David could have just said that, felt very good about himself, and then moved on. But he didn't. He turned his words into action, and he raised the bar even higher. About 2 months into my treatment, I came to him and I told him that I was having a hard time being in the office 5 days a week while also getting chemotherapy. David was the first person to suggest that I work from home on Wednesdays, and he never made me feel bad about it or like I was any less a part of the team. And then when David left Hillel 818 in July and our new executive director, Matt, started, at some point, I had a conversation with him about how my chemo fatigue was starting to get really bad, and would it be possible for me to take a nap in my office occasionally when I needed it? Not only did Matt say yes, but he's often one of the first people to sort of run interference when my door is closed and there's a student or somebody looking for me in the building. And the staff at Hillel International have also been nothing but amazing. From Michael, our campus support director, who calls every few months just to check in, to Antal, who must have answered 1,000 insurance questions I had at the beginning, to Leslie and Julie, who, when I decided I wanted to be a part of the Kaplan Supervisory Program, but the curriculum interfered with some of my treatments, they moved mountains to allow me to still be able to participate. Throughout all of that, the unplanned complications and hospitalizations and surgeries, the staff and the board at Hillel 818 have not just told me they would support me, but they've done things like send meals and take over basically all of my responsibilities for the past few months. For all of that, I will always be eternally grateful. Now, not everybody in this room is going to get cancer, thank God. But I am fairly certain that there will come a point where you will have to find the courage to ask for something that you need. And for those of you in this room, of which there are many, that have the power that David did or that Matt does, I urge you to think critically about what it means when we say that we're going to support one another. I think it's courageous to support your employees during the bad times, when their lives are not all smooth sailing, to tell them, we are going to be with you 100%, and then to act on it. Because when we do that for each other, we demonstrate the absolute best that we can be. And what a way to be able to demonstrate to our students what it means to live authentic Jewish values. Thank you.
This is my fight.